It was 6:45 p.m. when I found my office door missing. Not locked. Missing. Just gone. In its place was a glass wall, and inside, Tyler, our CEO's 23-year-old nephew, was dancing barefoot on my white rug, filming a Creative Vibes video. That used to be my space. My name was still on the plaque. That day, I wasn't just erased from the room. I was erased from the company. But what none of them knew was that I never leave a battlefield without my secret weapon. 1 year later, I smiled watching them beg for mercy. And no, I didn't even raise my voice. For 7 straight years, I was the first to arrive and the last to leave. I'd walk past security guards who greeted me with, "Early again, Jack?" and leave to a silent, dark parking lot long after the lights had dimmed across the building. I never missed a pitch, never dropped a deadline. I led the rebranding of 3 Fortune 500 clients without ever putting my name on a single campaign. I wasn't in it for the credit. I believed in the work. Still, part of me thought, maybe this year, maybe this performance review, maybe this would be when the promotion came. But every time the conversation neared leadership potential, it veered off into stability, consistency, backbone of the department. Words that sound like praise but taste like placeholders. One night, I sat at our kitchen table sketching an org chart, an imaginary one where roles were filled by merit, not last names. My daughter waddled over, plopped next to me, and asked, "Daddy, are you the boss of the bosses?" I laughed, but not because it was funny. No, sweetheart, just the guy they asked to fix everything. The next morning, I submitted a pitch deck I'd been working on for 2 months, a campaign for a global apparel brand pivoting into sustainability. It was the most intuitive, emotional arc I'd built. I poured in data, mood boards, user psychology. I stayed late for 3 weeks straight to fine-tune the flow. When I handed it to the CEO, he took the folder and said, I'll really take my time with this one." His voice was neutral, unreadable. That should have been the first sign. 3 days later, Tyler appeared. Blonde, Instagram polished, and apparently fresh from leading innovation at his university's media club. He introduced himself to the creative floor like a guest star on a sitcom. "Hey, I'm Tyler. Think of me as your new creative consultant / idea buddy / vibes manager." We all fake laughed. I kept my head down. Until Friday's client meeting. I walked in ready to present. But the lights dimmed, and Tyler, yes, Tyler, stood up in front of everyone, holding my pitch deck. My pitch deck. Slide by slide, he walked through the work I had sleeplessly constructed, adding spontaneous side notes like he'd thought of it in the shower that morning. The room burst into applause. I sat frozen. The CEO turned to me and said, "Great foundation work, Jack. Tyler really brought it to life." I didn't say a word. I just nodded, eyes fixed on the last slide. The watermark was still mine. Have you ever watched your own fingerprints applauded on someone else's hands? That night, I walked back to my desk to find it gone. Not the whole desk, just relocated. A cheery HR rep informed me that Tyler needed creative space and that I'd be temporarily assigned to a workstation near the printers. I stared at the beige cubicle, stripped of my personal effects. The potted plant, the framed photo of my daughter in her lion costume, shoved into a box without asking. I took it home that night. The box sat on our dinner table as my wife quietly reheated leftovers. I didn't touch my plate. She didn't ask. She turned her face away before I saw the tears. We both knew what this meant. You don't move the man who built the brand to the hallway unless you're preparing to erase him. I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling thinking, if I leave now, I leave with nothing. No credit, no protection, just silence. Monday morning, I opened my inbox to find a meeting reschedule and an email accidentally forwarded to me from the executive thread. It read, make sure Tyler's role is solidified by Q3. We need Jack out before the annual review window. I stared at it for a long time. Then I clicked forward and sent it to myself. Twice. The next morning, I walked straight into the CEO's office. Not out of anger, not out of impulse. I had rehearsed every word of it in the mirror the night before. I need to address something, I said. The pitch Tyler presented, it was mine. Word for word, slide for slide. The CEO looked up slowly, leaned back, and folded his arms. Jack, we're a team. Ideas bounce around. Tyler's young, yes, but eager. We need to cultivate that. Let's not stifle his motivation with credit wars. He stood up, placed a hand on my shoulder, and added, you're making this emotional. It's beneath you. That was the moment I knew this wasn't an oversight. It was a decision. By lunchtime, I was locked out of the campaign's shared folders. Slack channels I'd built from scratch vanished from my sidebar. I clicked into our project management board, removed as lead, reassigned to miscellaneous creative support. I stared at the screen for a full minute. Then I shut the laptop and walked out. I ended up in a quiet cafe across the street. It was the same place I used to write ideas in when I first joined the company. I sat at the corner booth by the window, surrounded by the soft clatter of cups and the laughter of nearby high schoolers sharing fries. Their world felt light, untouched. I envied that. I watched the sky shift into pale gold, my coffee going cold. Somewhere between the third sip and the hour I didn't realize passed, I remembered something. 6 months ago, during an all-nighter, I sketched a raw storyboard for a green energy brand campaign. I hadn't pitched it yet. Just an idea living in a notebook and one protected Google Doc. Out of reflex, I opened Instagram. There it was, a post from the company's official page, captioned, New Era, New Vision. The video looked sleek, modern, but I recognized every beat. The story arc, the character transitions, even the metaphor using falling leaves turning into circuitry. All mine, exactly mine. And the credits? Concept by Tyler Harris. I blinked. Once, twice. Then I laughed. A hollow, ugly laugh that startled the barista. That night, I got home later than usual. My daughter had drawn me a picture. Us holding hands under a sun labeled Dad's Day. She had waited to show me, but she was asleep on the couch, marker still in hand. My wife looked at me. Are they going to promote you or bury you? I didn't answer. The next morning, I got the meeting invite. Subject line, quick chat. Inside the conference room, the CEO smiled like we were old friends. Jack, we've been thinking. Maybe it's time for a change in direction. Of course, we'd like to handle this gracefully. If you resign voluntarily, we're happy to write a glowing reference. He said it like he was offering a handshake, not a guillotine. I've been here 7 years, I said quietly. Built this place from nothing. He nodded. And we value that. Let's part on good terms, shall we? I signed the paper, not because I agreed, not because I accepted, but because I knew when the room had already been cleared for my exit. No email was sent to announce my departure. No farewell lunch. Not even a cupcake. I packed my things, the framed photo, the mug that read Design God, the notebook with the original green energy sketch still torn halfway. As I stepped into the elevator, no one said goodbye. Just before the doors closed, Tyler walked by the hallway, my old hallway, blasting indie music from a portable speaker. He twirled his keys in the air, spun, and walked into my old office. He didn't even glance my way. I pressed the G button. The numbers ticked down. 10, 9, 8. My hand clenched around the handle of my box. When I reached the lobby, the intern, Leah, quiet, always polite, ran up to me out of breath. "Jack," she whispered, handing me a folded note. "I saw what they did. Just keep this. One day, you'll know why." She didn't wait for a reply. In the car, I opened the note. 4 words, handwritten, underlined twice. "They delete from within." I read it again. Then I started the engine. I sent out 22 resumes in 10 days. Each one tailored, each cover letter revised, each portfolio link updated and rechecked. Nothing. Not even a polite rejection. The silence was louder than anything Tyler ever said to me. On day 12, I shaved for the first time in a week. On day 14, I didn't. My wife didn't say anything, but her eyes did, the way she looked at me over dinner. Not angry, not pitying, just distant, like she was calculating how long we could keep the lights on. And our daughter? She tugged at my sleeve one morning as I sat slumped on the couch, laptop on my lap, email inbox empty. "Daddy, are you sad because I was bad?" I froze. "No," I said quickly. "No, sweetie, never. You're the best thing in my world." She nodded solemnly and handed me her drawing. A stick figure with a big heart holding a balloon. The balloon had my name in it. That night, I opened an old, leather-bound notebook I hadn't touched in 10 years. The first page was dated from when I got my first job out of college. Day 1, it read, "I'm going to build something real." I flipped past yellowed pages and scribbled sketches, then turned to a blank one. I wrote, "Day 3285. I'm not angry. I'm just empty." Then I closed the book and slept without dreaming. The next afternoon, I got an email from a domain I didn't recognize. Subject, "Let's build again." The message was short. "Hi, Jack. We're Gray Pixel, a young design collective. We've followed your work since your rebrand for Lunaware. We know what happened. That wasn't right. We'd love to talk. No promises, just possibilities." Attached was a Zoom link. I clicked. 3 faces smiled back. Young, undercooked, but hungry. They weren't flashy. No fancy background filters, just honest questions. Thoughtful listening. They didn't want to fix me. They wanted to learn. By the end of the call, I agreed to freelance 3 days a week. The pay was low. I didn't care. My first task was cleaning up copy for a toothpaste brand relaunch. I found 3 typos, rebuilt the wireframe, suggested new CTA logic, and rewrote the tagline. Your smile starts with truth. They loved it. The second week, I sat with 2 interns, walking them through how to storyboard emotion without saying emotional. One of them said, "Wait, this is the stuff no one teaches in school." That night, I walked home under a soft drizzle. My shoes were soaked, but I didn't feel cold. There was something oddly comforting about being needed again, not for clout, but for clarity. By week 4, I was drinking instant coffee in a shared office with 3 unpaid interns and a project manager who doubled as a DJ on weekends. And yet, for the first time in a long while, I laughed during lunch. Gray Pixel had heart, raw and unfiltered. They stumbled often, but when they ran, it was full sprint. Then came the Green Nest campaign. Small budget, Earth Day tie-in. The client was hesitant, skeptical. I pitched a concept I had buried long ago about planting stories, not slogans. We built a digital garden where users could leave messages of gratitude to the planet, which then grew into visual art using generative design. It wasn't flashy, but it was real. 2 weeks later, Green Nest posted about the campaign. A niche design blog picked it up, then another. By month's end, Gray Pixel won a small industry award for Emerging Creative Voice. During the interview, the project lead, one of those interns I taught, credited me directly. I wouldn't have known how to build that narrative without Jack. My name, in print. For once, not buried. The next morning, my phone buzzed. A message from someone I hadn't spoken to in nearly a year. It was one of the mid-level designers from my old company. All it said was, "He's doing it again." Then another message, this time with a screenshot. Tyler. Standing in front of a screen, behind him was a slogan, one I'd written back in 2018 for a rejected campaign. It read, "Real changes begin when you stop pretending." I remembered it clearly. It was written in the margin of a napkin, a slogan I had loved, but the CEO said it was too confrontational. Now it was on a billboard, under Tyler's name. My jaw clenched. I could feel the old heat returning. But it was different this time. I wasn't powerless anymore. I had eyes watching now. I had interns turned allies. A platform, small but mine. And somewhere in the back of my drawer, I still had that note. They delete from within. I created the account on a Tuesday night. No name, no photo. Just an empty username and a drive full of receipts. Screenshots of pitch decks, time-stamped drafts, emails that were never meant to be forwarded. I packaged it neatly. An unfiltered, undeniable record of who created what and who took it. The YouTuber I sent it to had over 500,000 subscribers. He was known for creative exposés. His videos titled like courtroom verdicts, "The Agency That Lied," "How a Startup Faked Its Origin Story." I didn't expect much. A maybe, a shrug, a read and ignore. But by Friday morning, he posted. The video was called "Tyler the Thief, The Anatomy of Corporate Credit Theft." Within 12 hours, it had 600,000 views. By the next day, 2 million. The comment section was a bonfire. Bro took fake it till you make it literally. How is this not illegal? Where's the original creator? Give him the damn credit. I didn't comment. I just watched. Quietly. The CEO issued a statement 36 hours later. A video in front of a plain white wall. No logo, no branding. He spoke stiffly, reading from a script. There have been some misunderstandings about our creative process. We take accusations of plagiarism seriously. But the internet doesn't forget. In the replies, users began unearthing more. Campaigns from years prior. Blog posts. Behance profiles with suspiciously similar design choices. Each thread pulled another. And suddenly, Tyler wasn't just a name. He was a symbol. I saw screenshots circulating. Clients tweeting that they were reviewing all collaborations. By Sunday, 2 major brands had publicly distanced themselves from the agency. One post read, "Integrity matters more than impressions." I wasn't gloating. I wasn't even smiling. I just sat on the back porch, watching clouds drift, holding my daughter in my lap. "Why are people mad at your old job?" she asked. I brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. Because sometimes the truth takes a while to show up. But when it does, it's loud. She nodded. "You didn't do anything bad, right?" I pulled her close. No, I didn't. Later that night, Tyler turned off comments on all his platforms. But that didn't stop anything. A former creative director I hadn't heard from in years made a post on LinkedIn. Years ago, I was asked to share credit for a campaign I led. I was told it would be good for team spirit. That person was Tyler. I didn't speak up then. I should have. I won't stay silent now. His post went viral. 10,000 likes in a day. A ripple effect followed. Dozens of former employees began sharing eerily similar stories. Thought I was crazy until I saw this. I got told we're all one team when they cut my name off the deck. Thank you for saying it out loud. It was like watching a dam break. At Gray Pixel, no one said anything directly, but I noticed the extra coffee on my desk one morning. The project manager clapped me on the back a little harder than usual. The interns worked with more urgency. They knew. And they knew I wasn't done. Then came the email. From a name I didn't recognize at first. Jessica Wu, Chief Talent Officer at Sonder & Wright, one of the biggest creative firms in the country. Subject: Let's talk leadership. Her message was brief. Jack, we've followed your trajectory, both the storm and the rebuild. We believe in second acts, especially when the first was stolen. Let's talk about the future. CCO isn't just a title, it's a direction. I didn't reply right away. I reread it 5 times. I stood up, walked into the kitchen where my wife was folding laundry. They want me, I said quietly. She looked up. Who? Sonder & Wright. She didn't smile. She didn't speak. She walked over and hugged me, tighter than she had in months. That evening, I took my daughter for a walk down by the park. She rode her scooter. I carried a juice box in one hand, her fallen helmet in the other. We sat on a bench under a slow-setting sky. Are you going to go back to your old office? She asked. I shook my head. No. But I might go somewhere better. She leaned against me. Will they be nice this time? I thought for a moment. They won't need to be, because this time, I'll be the one in charge. As she dozed off against my arm, I checked my phone one last time. Another message blinked in. A designer from my former team. Just 3 words. He's spiraling hard. I looked up at the stars. And for the first time in a long, long while, I felt still. It was a Sunday afternoon when he showed up. I was in the backyard pulling weeds, dirt under my nails, when my wife leaned out the back door, face tight. Someone's here. He says you know him. I wiped my hands on my jeans and stepped through the sliding glass door. And there he was, the CEO. Hair thinner, tie loose, eyes not sharp like before. His suit looked expensive but tired, like him. He held a folder, but didn't offer it. Jack, he said softly, I know this is unexpected. I didn't speak. I just waited. I'd rather this come from me than a recruiter. The truth is, we need you. The company's bleeding. Clients are gone. Morale's worse. The board is panicking. I crossed my arms. So? We want you back? He said. Not just back. In charge. Creative chief. A seat at the table. I stared at him. After everything? He hesitated, then took a slow breath. You were right about Tyler. You were right about a lot of things. And then came the real twist. The sentence he delivered like a confession. I didn't protect you because I couldn't. The board, they pushed Tyler in. He was connected, not just to me. Politically, financially. My hands weren't clean, Jack. But they weren't free either. He looked down. I wanted to say something back then, but saying something meant losing everything. My voice was quiet. And now that you've lost it anyway, you want help cleaning the mess. I want redemption, he said, looking up. And I think you deserve it too. It hung in the air between us. The silence. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just told him I'd think about it. That night, I drove to the nursing home. My mother had been asking for me, and I hadn't visited in a week. She sat in her chair by the window, knitting something halfway between a scarf and a mess of yarn. When I kissed her on the cheek, she smiled faintly. "You look heavy," she said. "I ran into an old ghost," I replied. She didn't ask who. She never needed names. "Did the ghost ask you to dance?" I chuckled. "Something like that." She set down the yarn, her fingers trembling slightly. "You know, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting," she said, "and it doesn't mean letting them back in. It just means you don't let the rot live in you." I didn't respond. I just leaned in, resting my head on her shoulder like I did as a child. The next morning, I sent a simple email. Subject: "Thank you." Body: "But no." Then I opened a new folder on my laptop and typed 2 words in bold at the top: Torchlight Creative. 38 days later, Torchlight opened its doors. The office was small, shared space in a red brick building with creaky floors and a coffee machine that wheezed more than it brewed. But the nameplate on the door was real, and so was the first employee, Leah, the intern from back then. She walked in with a fresh laptop, sharp eyes, and a quiet confidence I barely remembered in her. "I told myself," she said, "if you ever built something, I'd help build it too." I smiled. "You just made my first day official." We worked side by side, planning branding packages for nonprofits, startups, local shops with more heart than budget. No ego, just clean lines and honest vision. Then, during week 3, a letter arrived by mail, handwritten, no return address. Inside was the original note I'd been given all those months ago. But now, under the words, "They delete from within," was a second message. "Unless someone leaks them first." Tucked behind the note was a USB drive. Leah watched as I opened the files: recordings, meeting minutes, an entire folder of internal memos detailing manipulation, stolen credit, and more. I looked up. "You sent this," I said. She nodded. "You were the whistleblower." "I saw what they did to you," she said, "and I realized if I stayed quiet, I'd be next." I leaned back, stunned, but also proud, not for myself, for her, for choosing to be louder than silence. Weeks passed. Clients grew. The office buzzed. One afternoon, a reporter came in to profile the studio. She asked the final question of the interview: "What makes Torchlight different?" I thought for a long moment. "We don't sell dreams," I said. "We protect the people who build them." That night, after everyone left, I sat alone with the lights off. I thought about the boardroom I'd never returned to, the applause I never got, the revenge I never screamed. And I realized this was better, quieter, but better. 3 months after we opened our doors, Torchlight landed its first international client, a Scandinavian tech brand looking to expand ethically into the U.S. market. They'd scoured dozens of agencies. What brought them to us wasn't a flashy pitch or viral campaign. It was an op-ed I wrote for a design blog called Build with Conscience. In it, I didn't name names. I didn't relive old wars. I just told the truth, that real creative leadership was less about innovation and more about integrity. That when you protect your team's dignity, ideas don't just thrive, they endure. They called the next morning. A month later, Our pitch, centered around transparent design, community-first messaging, and supply chain storytelling, was accepted unanimously. We didn't celebrate with champagne. We ordered tacos and sat cross-legged on the floor, laughing about nothing and everything. At the end of the day, I gathered the team in our cramped meeting room. Some sat on the windowsill. Others leaned against the whiteboard covered in Post-it notes. I stood by the doorway, heart pounding like it hadn't in years. We don't just build campaigns here, I told them. We build trust. We build second chances. We build things people don't have to apologize for. I paused. We build what's right. And they clapped, not out of obligation, but belief. That evening, I came home to find my daughter waiting on the porch. She was holding a rolled-up paper tied with ribbon. "For you," she said, beaming. Inside was a drawing, a stick figure standing on a hill holding a torch, light beaming in every direction. Beneath it, in her wobbly handwriting, "My dad keeps the light on." I didn't cry, but I sat very still for a long time. Weeks passed. Clients grew. Recognition trickled in. Then one morning, I got an email from a company that had once rejected me without a reply. Now, their subject line read, "Ethics Audit Inquiry." They wanted us, not for branding, but for something deeper. Internal culture reform, policy clarity, a system for protecting creative credit. It was the full circle I never expected. We took the job, not out of spite, but because the world doesn't change unless someone says yes when it's inconvenient. I never told them I remembered their silence. That was never the point. Later that month, I was invited to speak at a creative leadership conference. Theme: the future of honest design. I agreed. The room was packed. Industry leaders, press, students, CEOs, the kind of crowd that used to terrify me. 15 minutes before going on, I scanned the room and froze. Tyler. He was leaning against the back wall, alone. No entourage. No name tag. Just him, watching. Our eyes met. He looked away. I walked up to the podium. The lights were warm. The mic buzzed once, then steadied. I told the room the story of a man who lost everything except his ability to build again. I didn't use names, but everyone knew. When I finished, the applause was long and honest. Afterward, as I was packing up, a young intern approached me. Maybe 20, eager, eyes too bright to lie. "Hey," he said, "can I ask something?" "Sure." "That guy." He gestured toward the back. Tyler had already slipped out. He did some stuff, right? Bad stuff. Why didn't you call him out? You had the mic. You had the power. I smiled. If I used the mic to destroy, I'd become what I fought. He blinked. Processing. "So, you just let it go?" I shook my head. "No. I let him live with it. That's louder than anything I could have said." He nodded slowly, then walked off. Outside, the sun was low, but bright. I stepped onto the street, alone, briefcase in hand. Not the leather one from before. Just a canvas bag with sketches and snacks. I paused at the crosswalk, waiting for the light to change. Behind me, someone called my name. I turned. It was one of the interns from Gray Pixel. He looked older now, sharper. He smiled wide. "Jack, man, it's so good to see you. You still building stuff?" I nodded. Always. The light changed. I stepped forward. I didn't need noise. Didn't need a stage. I'd already won, quietly, but completely.